Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Match Slip Podcast. My name is Frank. I run the podcast here. I interview game store owners across the U.S. We're here live at the LI Tabletop Convention, and I'm here with Gil, the owner of Brothers Grimm. Gil, how you doing?
Good.
So what can you tell us, Gil, about when you first got into gaming? Let's start back, going back to your childhood.
Back in the ancient days before dirt.
What was it like for you with gaming and how you grew up?
So there was not a lot of gaming. So for my start, my mom actually bought the original red box for D&D for my brother, who was 5, and it was way too complex for him. I was 9, so I ended up getting it. And that was probably 1978 or so. Sorry, I was 11, so yeah, it was 1978. And yeah, it was just, that was my start in gaming and learning how to role play. There was a store called Waterloo Hobbies back in, I think they finally closed in the 90s. They had 2, one in Stony Brook, New York, and one in Mineola. And my grandparents were in Mineola. So I would convince my grandparents to take me to the hobby store, and you would buy your little metal figurines, always lead, good to taste. And yeah, that was kind of my start into gaming, and started role-playing, and then moved on from there to different role-playing games, found people at my local bookstore, and but yeah, it was hard. It was hard to find people to game. It's not nearly as popular as it is now.
And how long into that journey of gaming did you decide, at what point was it that you wanted to run a game store?
My first attempt, I was 18. My mom had opened a bookstore, and I opened a small gaming section. So, and back then, gaming was Dungeons and Dragons. You know, that was 1986. So it was role-playing. That was really what it was. There was none, Magic wasn't a thing yet. There were no card games. There was none of that. Board games were still Risk, Monopoly. You know, that was the level of board gaming that was out there. I mean, the hardcore guys played the bookcase Avalon games, Blitzkrieg, and 1,000 little chits moving across a board. And that was also kind of the introduction to wargaming also. So they kind of developed and branched out from board games into wargaming.
Okay, and so during that whole period, and you were pretty much at that point, because we were talking a little bit off camera about the store that was in the area, and it was Monkey Head Games that you were telling me.
That was late. That was actually way later.
Way later. So prior to you having brothers.
Right. So that was, let's see, Monkey Head Game probably came about around, I want to say 2000. I think that might be when he started, and that was the store, and that was the location I'm in now. And you know, 6 years later, 2006. I ended up buying, end of 2006, beginning in 2007, we bought Mac out and opened up Brothers Grimm Games.
Okay. And what's been like some of the ups and downs that you've experienced throughout the ownership of the store?
COVID was rough and great. Beginning of COVID was shut down, no sales, was sent all my employees home. It was me in the store mailing stuff out to people. People would call me, and I would, you know, mail stuff to them or start more on eBay and other avenues of online selling. Probably a year after the pandemic started, sales start to skyrocket once the store opens again. Once we were allowed to have people in the store gaming. People were so stuck at home for so long that all of a sudden they wanted something to do, and they had started gaming at home. Well, now stores are open, they could go out and buy things. And Warhammer went through the roof, Magic, all the card games just started shooting through the roof and skyrocketing. So it was a double-edged sword, you know, it was hard. You know, I still had to pay rent and had to take out a government loan to float me through. My creditors, I had a large line of credit with one of my distributors, and they cut the credit line. They were like, nope, got to pay it back now. And it was just like, it's $100,000. That's a lot of money.
So you had no wiggle room?
No, they were, got to pay it back.
What's it like overall dealing with the distributors, like from buying the product and knowing how much to buy? It seems like is it a guessing game?
Yes, that is my biggest problem. Right now, one of the most popular games out there is One Piece, and it's a trading card game by Bandai. It is super popular. The One Piece anime is such a big hit that it is translated into gaming, that we're getting a lot of people who normally aren't gamers coming in to either collect or start playing the game. For right now, I am ordering set 8 of Bandai, which comes out in November, and I have to have my orders in now. So I have no idea between now and then, an asteroid could hit. I mean, we have no idea, another pandemic. But I have to have those numbers in, and I'm stuck with those numbers. Whatever I put, that's what I'm getting. So it's really hard trying to figure out where the curve is on a game. So most games start out a little slow and then just build steam and go up, up, and up, and up, and up. But then they hit a plateau where people are moving into other games or doing something else, and now it starts to go down. You have to predict where that drop-off is on when you're ordering. Because a lot of these games, like on Bandai, I can't get restocks. Once I put my order in, that's all I'm getting for that game, for that set. So now I'm predicting in November that it's still going to be a good game, because I ordered a lot, and that people are still going to want to play it, and Bandai isn't going to do something stupid with the rules, or some other game isn't going to come out and draw off all those customers. So it's kind of a guessing game when it comes to that.
Do you have like any internal processes like at the store that you can use to almost track over time with a specific product?
Not really. I mean, we go by sales. I mean, obviously we can see where our sales are going. But the problem is that because we're limited in product, like with Bandai, the last set, I ordered, I think, 380 boxes. I got in 180. How do I know how many I could have sold? Now, my numbers, I sold out. So if you just go by your total sellouts, it's an automatic hit. It's selling out every single set. But is that artificial in that could I have sold more? Would I have sold 181 boxes instead of 180? Or would I have sold all 380 I got? I don't know, because I didn't have them. The other problem is speculation. So you have speculators driving up the market, trying to buy boxes so they can go resell them, and that affects your market. And once supply is there, once I get that 380 boxes, well, the speculators go away, which is what happened with the Lorcana card game, and now boxes are below cost. Below retail. They're not below cost on Lorcana yet. That's kind of the game you have to play. You have to try to figure what your customer base is going to be into 6 months in advance. So I really need a fortune teller's ball.
Yeah, without a doubt. The Lorcana thing kind of fascinated me when the hype train around it and so many people buying it out, and there was like very limited supply, I've heard from other stores. I'm curious if you experienced the same thing or what your experience was like when that came out.
I was fortunate enough to get more than most people, and still wasn't nearly enough. We got 3 play kits because we're one of the bigger stores on Long Island. We had a lot of boxes. We limited our pack sales so that we were selling, I want to say it was 6 packs a day per person per day. People were coming in every day. And people bringing in their kids, their family. This is Grandma Joe. She suddenly wants to play, so they could get more packs. And supplies went out really fast.
What do you think was the hype around it? Do you think it was purely because it was like a Disney property, or do you think there was something else that went into it?
Take a Disney property, and then your distributors telling us that we're going to be severely limited, and that drove speculation. Like Gen Con, there was practically a riot. People were trying to get into the booth. People were getting into fights on the screen trying to get back. So we going into us, that was all before we even got it. So the hype train was so amazing. People were buying boxes just so they could go flip them on eBay. In reality, it's a good fun game, but it's a very basic game. It's meant for kids to be able to play. It's meant for people who are not into card gaming to be able to go pick up this game and go, this is fun and I understand it. It doesn't have a roll of text, 22 lines long that I have to read. It's very simple and easy to play. Where it's going to go, we'll have to see. The game is definitely slowed down a lot. But again, trying to figure, this is where that speculation comes in. How many of those people were speculators? How many people were players? And then how many people are collectors is kind of what you have to figure out with it.
And that's interesting you said that it's slowed down some. I would have thought it would have kept going. I haven't heard any store like to me yet complain about like the popularity of it, but because I was originally going to ask, is it the most popular game you've seen since like Magic the Gathering?
One Piece.
One Piece is
Without a doubt, hands down. Yeah, the pre-order numbers, I have some friends in distribution, and the pre-order numbers for the next set of One Piece, which is set 8 is what we're ordering for, is just through the roof. You know, and part of that though, again, becomes stores play games. We know we're gonna get allocated. We know that it's a limited product. So a store will order 1,500 boxes, hoping that they get 20% of their order. Years ago, do you know the Fallen Empires Magic set?
I reckon, yeah, the name sounds familiar. I wasn't playing though at that point.
It was infamous among stores. It put people out of business. People ordered thousands of boxes. And that's the set that Wizard of the Coast said, we're going to print everything we have, printed it all. And stores got thousands of boxes. And that bill came due. And it was not a great set. It was a set that they did multiple prints of single cards in the same pack. So you were getting 3 of the same card, different artwork, but it was still the same card to play, so you didn't care. So you're like, oh, let's get rid of this. And it literally put stores out of business. That's the thing you're seeing with Lorcana and with One Piece and games of that magnitude. People are ordering these thousands and thousands of boxes, and question is whether or not they'll get them.
And when you're ordering, because, you know, from what I always hear is that the profit that you make on these boxes is so low in terms of the margin. Is that across the board for all games, or is that, because I hear that the most with Magic, I wasn't sure if it's like that with the other games.
Depends, so it really depends. Magic does not have an MSRP anymore. They got rid of their MSRP, probably because us game stores were complaining. And you can buy Magic at $10 to $15 over my cost online. And that's where they say there's no profit in it. A game like One Piece, on the other hand, because it's so limited and because the product is so tight, I can sell it at full retail and make my full margin on it, which is good. So it really depends on the game. Lorcana, their box price, their percentage that I get, according to MSRP, is lower than most others. So that, not great. They've also said that they're just going to keep printing this game. Now, they've made it very clear that this is a game for people to play. They want it to be collectible, but not super high value. They don't want people hoarding boxes, and they trying to not have speculators, and they keep saying they're just going to keep reprinting things.
They're trying to move the collection aspect out of it, and it's more of almost like...
They want a collection, but not super valuable collectibles is really what it is. You know, they want people to collect full sets because they like the artwork or they like the characters. So I'm going to collect all the, you know, Donald Ducks, or I'm going to collect all the Mickey cards or something of that nature. You know, yeah, it's like you said, the profit end is definitely depends on the game, and it depends on how limited the supply is. With the internet these days, unfortunately, you know, you can buy most things relatively cheap. You know, there's some players out there that their whole method of buying and selling is they order 1,000 boxes of every game, and they're okay making $3 a box because they make $3,000. You know, and you do that over a course of a bunch of games, it's not a bad profit. And if you don't actually have a store and you're just a little storefront with a warehouse out back that all you're shipping, it's a lot cheaper. And if you're in, say, Tennessee or out in Oklahoma versus, you know, New York, where I pay $7,000 a month in rent, you know, it makes a big difference.
So with those costs in mind, are you a fan of MSRP not being there versus being there, since all the games don't operate necessarily the same way?
I like MSRP only because it gives a frame of reference. I often have people come in and go, oh, well, this Magic box should cost 120 bucks. I'm like, wait, that Magic box, you know, cost me 105. So no, it shouldn't, right? It shouldn't cost me, it shouldn't be 120. And they get their prices off Amazon, or eBay, or, that's what they're looking at, or these guys that are dumping their stuff online and looking at that and thinking that that's what a typical box should go for. And I mean, that might be in the future what boxes are, that everybody might get rid of MSRP and go from there.
But it's the overhead you're dealing with that makes it difficult to sell at that price. So how do you compete? And I know it's very hard to compete with Amazon, for example, but how do you best do that?
Customer loyalty. People come into my store and they have a good time. There's a sense of community. People want to buy from me because they want to see the store do well. We've also moved away from box sales, like certain sets where the box price is so high. Like Wizards of the Coast has some really high-end product that they've come out with, and the box prices are just getting to the point of unaffordable. $450-ish for a box of cards. I won't even sell those boxes. I just tell people, look, go online. I won't compete with online for that, but then I sell packs. And people will come in and buy packs all day long for the same price that I sell a box for, but it's just slower because I'm buying a pack at a time. And then you have singles, individual cards, which do well. Tournaments, people want to come in and you're there and you want to open for fun. So you're like, I know I can get it cheaper on Amazon, but I'm going to rip a box right here with everybody. And then everybody gathers around while you open the box and open all the packs. And again, it's that sense of community and people enjoying and having fun in your store.
How often do you find new customers coming in versus returning players? Is it you see the same people most of the time, I would imagine, or do you see new people?
So most of the time, I'll say we have the same customers, and we have a large customer base. I would say I have over, I don't even know, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I have a few thousand regular customers that buy from me on a regular basis. As far as, and then there's levels. There's guys that come in, they buy from me and they leave. Then there's guys that come in, sit down and open stuff and then leave. And then you have guys that come in, buy stuff and play games, or guys that just come in and play games and occasionally buy things. So you have all different customer levels as far as that goes.
And how would you feel from a business standpoint, the steady stream of income of maintaining the business? Because you've been doing this for quite some time, so you've seen the ups and downs, you've seen what trials and tribulations there are. So how has it been, would you say, when you look at it from when you first started to now? I know the pandemic adds quite a wrinkle into all that, but I'm curious of the overall picture so far.
As far as in what regards? I'm not sure what you're...
I would say in regards to seeing, the customer base maintain itself, because, you'll have sometimes the economy affects people being able to spend, so they feel like they can't, play, that type of thing. How do you see it when you look at it in the aggregate?
I would say, so gaming is just growing and growing and growing. I did an article for Newsday, and I basically said it's the golden age of nerddom, and it was, superhero movies, fantasy movies, science fiction movies, TV shows, all these new games that are coming out are going to, nerds. When I go back to 1978, I got picked on in school. Not often, because I'm 6'4", 300 pounds, but every now and then, someone would say something, you're a big nerd or something of that nature. Whereas now, it's not really an insult anymore. You can go into any library, any school, and all sorts of gaming groups and all sorts. Look at this convention. Right. When I started, they didn't have these. There were no conventions like this. And this is just becoming more and more popular. So that has grown in that people are bringing in their friends, their family, bringing parents back. I have guys who used to play D&D, and years later, their kids are now playing 5th edition, and they're digging up their old 2nd edition books and going, hey, let me show you how we used to play it back then. So now they're coming in and playing 5th edition. For Magic, I have one customer who, I used to run tournaments in the Smith Haven Mall many, many moons ago, like 1997, I think, 98. Early days of Magic. And he played in my 14 and under bracket. He now comes into the store with his 3 kids. That's and one of them was 18. So it's like generational.
Yeah.
And
loyalty too.
And that's it, you know, and I didn't even recognize him at first. And he's like, "You remember me? I played in your tournaments." And I'm like, "I do remember you now," you know, and it just took a while. But it's just amazing how it's grown so much. So that's affected, you know, the bottom line in that I have more customers, I have more people, and more gaming and more different games coming out has helped. One Piece brought in a bunch of people. Lorcana has brought in a whole new level of people. Star Wars Unlimited will bring in a whole new level of people. Those Star Wars fans. I have guys who quit Magic and are now going, "Ooh, they do a multiplayer level for Star Wars Unlimited. This is great. I can't wait to play this." And now they're buying. And they swore they'd never play a card game again. And yeah, here they are. They're playing cards at my store and playing that.
And are you open every day of the week?
Yeah, 7 days a week. Surprisingly enough, we're actually open later during the week than on weekends.
Oh, no kidding. Why is that?
So I used to be open till 2 or 3 in the morning, and that got to be a lot. And you know, but there'd be Magic games going all night, and Warhammer games going all night, and D&D, and you know, we kind of scaled it back. And then the pandemic hit, and we really scaled everything back. And then I couldn't find help at first, so we opened with limited hours. And then I found more and more that because when it was strictly nerds, you know, when we were hardcore nerds playing, you know, they'll play any day of the week, and that's all they did. Well, now I have guys that, "Oh, I can't play today. I got football practice on Sunday," or "I'm going to the football game on Sunday." We have dance, we have soccer, we have all these other things that are now integrated because, you know, the fandom is so grown so much, and a lot of those happens on weekends. You know, parents can't come during the week, or they can't bring, either they can't come themselves, or they can't bring John because Joe's playing football,
Right.
so they got to go to the football game. But during the week, they can drop the kid off and stay till whatever time they're going to, you know, stay till. We close at 11 now. And during the weekends, we now close between 7 and 8, depending on the day. You know, 8 on Saturdays, 7 on Sundays. And we found that, you know, people are going out and doing other things, going to the movies, going to an escape room, going to something. And the hardcore guys still want to be open, but you have to balance spending money because electric, toilet paper, paper towels, employee costs, you know, all add up.
Mm-hmm. And how many employees do you have at the store to help facilitate everything you're doing?
I don't actually have a lot of employees. I have very good employees. I think I currently have 4 employees, you know, but everybody works full time.
Okay.
So it's all full-time employees. I don't have any part-timers.
Okay.
And again, because of the limited hours, that makes it a lot easier to do that. You know, we don't open till noon.
Oh, okay, that's good. At least, you know, you don't have to worry about like working late into the night and then
Right.
getting up early to do it again.
Exactly.
How's that helped you? Like, because I'm sure in the early days you were probably there like unimaginable hours like at a time.
I used to do 100 hours a week.
What is it down to?
Now I'm probably about 30.
Okay, much more manageable now.
It's definitely, yeah. I mean, I used to sleep on my tables, you know, and have to open the next morning, go into the bathroom, wash myself up, and be ready until my partner could come in, and then I could go home and shower and sleep and everything, you know.
Yeah.
Many a late night, you know, being open late. And it's weird. Like, I've had people come in at 2 in the morning and spend $2,000.
No
You know,
way.
so yeah, so that was always the justification for staying open later. I finally realized it wasn't worth, you know, for that occasional rare customer that would drop that big amount of money, it wasn't really worth it to come in and do that.
Do you see those types of customers come in? I remember seeing them a lot in the past. Like, you know, you would never hear them say it, but we used to have at a store I went to back when I was in my early 20s. We used to see that every now and again. He would just keep buying boxes and boxes. You still, that's,
We still get those guys. You have the churn and burn guy. He buys boxes, rips it open for singles, then turns around and sells you back the singles and uses that to buy another box. But it's always diminishing returns.
Right.
But then they'll pull out more money to go buy another box and keep doing it over and over. And then you have some collectors that are just guys that come in and buy by the case. You know, I have one guy who He'll come in and drop 2-3 grand a clip, and he has my cell phone number, so he called me up the other night, and he's like, I just hit this. He was all excited. My wife was like, who is this guy? He sounds really excited, and he was going on because he had hit a really good case hit on a card. So you still have that. And, and it goes from that to the guy who, he comes in and spends $10 a week, and that's all he has money for, and it's a great mix of people.
And with the employees that you have, are they doing mostly just front of sales things? Because I know some stores have like people in silos depending upon how big they are. And I know you're one of the bigger stores on Long Island, so I was curious.
Yeah, we do mostly front of sales, front of house sales. I do most of the back end paperwork. I do have a manager who does a lot of the order. I have two managers actually, who do a lot of the ordering and that kind of thing. But everybody's pretty much required to be able to work the register and be up front. And I'm not a big online sales guy. I'm not, I sell a lot of old D&D. I'm pretty well known for old miniature, old Warhammer and old D&D online. But that's it. I don't want to sell 1,000 boxes of whatever set that comes out, because then you have to have somebody packing and shipping, and you need an area to do that. I want to dedicate my store to gaming and actually playing games.
What got you into selling old Warhammer and D&D online?
I'm a hoarder.
Just the collection builds up and you got to get rid of it.
So part of it is that I will buy anything that comes in the store pretty much. And a lot of times I will buy these collections, and there'll be some newer pieces that are like, oh, these are going to be really good and these are going to sell well. I sell used Warhammer and used D&D in the store. So I do these, I have glass showcases that have all these beautiful minis in it. But you always have these older pieces that aren't the greatest, or they're not used anymore, or they've kind of faded out, so they go in the basement. And over the years, I have accumulated a lot. And my basement is full in my store of old role-playing games, old minis, and it turns out that they're worth a bunch of money now, like a lot, some of these.
That's worth selling online for sure.
Right. Some of these little lead figures that are, 2 inches tall sell for $60, $80 a piece. So definitely worth the sales, and clear out room to try to clean things up.
Right, of course. What are some of the most popular games at your store?
I would say right now, card game wise, One Piece, Pokemon, Magic are going to be those are the big ones. Miniature wise, we have Warhammer 40K, we have Kill Team, and then probably non-Warhammer related would be Star Wars Legion is big. Star Wars, such a great IP. And then I have a pretty steady BattleTech group that comes in once a month.
And are you able to hold multiple events at a time? I know some stores can only do one event at a time.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough, we're pretty big. So I hold a minimum of 2 events every day. Because part of the problem right now is there's so many games out there. There's probably 11 current active card games that are very popular right now.
Is it like an overload at all?
Yes. Yeah, we're having space issues trying to fit in, like Star Wars Unlimited just came out, and we finally found a couple niches for that. But then there's a new game called Altered that's coming out, Altered TCG, and then there's Bandai has another game coming out also, 2 more games coming out. So trying to find space to put all these people gets rough, especially with the miniature games because they take up a lot more space. So we generally have dedicated area. We have a dedicated area for miniature games and a dedicated area for card games. Okay. And we do have some crossover. Card gamers will use the miniature tables when they're not being used. We have table toppers for when I run my big tournaments. We do a 30-man 40K tournament every other month. And we bring out table toppers to put on top of the regular card tables to play those.
Okay. And I'm guessing with all of these games, and you're having to make space like you were saying, and that's the hard thing to find, and a lot of that space that's being taken up is due to inventory that's already in the store. Are there times where you're holding on to inventory for a long time? Like it's either guessing wrong on a product that you thought might sell, I know that plays a factor, but I'm curious how you kind of try to get the product out.
So it goes back to my hoarding. I hate discounting product. Some people will just dump it at 10, 20% of cost. I will hold on to it, and that has helped me a lot in that stuff that I've held on to for years and years and years now is actually valuable. It's worth something. It's a trade-off. You pay taxes on product, so is it worth it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I'm also very well known for having old product in all different lines. You know, people know that they can find older 40K, older D&D, older Magic. You know, these are things, older Yu-Gi-Oh! Boxes, because I've held on to these boxes, and I've always ordered a little extra, and sometimes way too much extra. Baldur's Gate is a perfect example. Baldur's Gate for Magic, not a great set when it came out. People were, I mean, set was fun, but not a valuable set. Really tanked in price. People are dumping it left and right online. Well, some of the cards now are actually actively good again, and the prices started ramping up on these because people want them again, and I have them, so.
We're going to take a quick break from this podcast to talk about our sponsor, Cardboard Shuffle. Cardboard Shuffle was our 10th podcast interview here at the Match Slip with store owner Mark. Mark has expanded his brand and has produced his own card sleeves called Shuffle Shields. Shuffle Shields come in packs of 100 premium matte card sleeves for standard size trading cards. They contain no PVC and are acid-free. I have 17 packs of Shuffle Shields card sleeves to give away to listeners of the podcast and followers of the Match Slip on social media. Requests for a free pack of card sleeves shipped for free to you will be processed on a first-come, first-served basis. To receive your free pack of Shuffle Shields, you'll need to send a screenshot that you're following Cardboard Shuffle on Facebook to frank@thematchslip.com. I'm glad you brought that up because you see with the crossover IPs that Magic is doing now, in some cases, you know, people will really like it. Like for me, I loved the Lord of the Rings one just because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. But then, you know, you'll hear people not liking it because they feel, oh, this isn't Magic. This is now taking another IP and molding it in. I'm curious from a store standpoint rather than, and I want your personal opinion of it too, but from both of those different vantage points, how do you feel about it personally? And then from a store standpoint, how are the sales with that?
As a store owner, I like it because you're bringing new people in. I have people who might not play Magic other than the fact that Fallout came out and they're huge Fallout fans. So now they're going to buy a Fallout deck and play that and do their Magic. The Doctor Who set, same thing, you know. Lord of the Rings kind of falls into the line of Magic because it's fantasy oriented. Mm-hmm. It's those out of the box sets. Assassin's Creed is coming out.
Right, that's what I was thinking of.
Personal opinion, I don't like it. I am not a fan. I think that I almost think there should be a separate section, and they do. It's called Universes Beyond, and that's what all these things are in. But personally, I wouldn't want to play with Assassin's Creed in my Magic game. But as a store owner, again, because I'm bringing in those new players and they're having fun with it, that's great. There are some people who have left Magic because of that. They don't want anything to do with it. But I think overall, it's a much better, much healthier Magic because of that, because it's bringing more stuff in.
Are you seeing those people that come in for, say, the Assassin's Creed, coming back for the regular, just Magic particular?
Yes, because they start out playing, and once they play, they like the game, so then they come back and buy the regular sets.
So it's clearly working. It's definitely, even though it's alienating some because they have a purist viewpoint with it, it's still bringing in
way more.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with Magic is that they have too much product coming out, too fast, too many. Like it seems that now every 6 weeks there's a new Magic product. Mm-hmm. Now Magic, in their what they've said is that you don't have to buy everything, buy what you want. The problem is too many of our players want something from every set that comes out,
right,
and they're almost being forced to buy it to keep up with it. And there is definitely wallet fatigue from that.
And I was going to say, as a store owner, I'm sure you probably don't have the luxury of, say, like a consumer like me saying, okay, I'm just not going to buy that. You probably don't have that option.
No, I have to carry everything. So.
And is there anything that, because I've had, you know, store owners on the show that have, you know, said to me, yeah, they wish Wizards would slow it down some. Do they have any type of like outreach with you guys where you guys are able to say this is like tough to manage?
There is a Facebook group for store owners that can talk to someone at Wizards. Mm-hmm. I think that the gentleman who runs that group, Nelson, does a really good job. I don't think they listen to him. I think that's, you know, it comes down to corporate sponsors, corporate overlords, whatever you want to call them. Hasbro wants to make money. They need to make their year-over-year bonuses. That's the kind of things they need to do. So yeah, and that's why you're going to see this product come out, because it's the only way to beat last year's goals is to make more product. Because I don't see the sales, like my overall sales are down for core Magic sets. Some of the specialty sets, Fallout did really well. Lord of the Rings did really well because everybody wanted a chance to win a $3 million one ring. Everybody was hunting for gold on that one, and they knew it. They'd sell it to Post Malone, and, and that was going to be it, right? Yeah. But in general, my sales are down for Magic. We've slowed down our ordering a lot, and part of it, again, people are going online to order it. That's part of it. But I just see a lot of dissatisfaction in the game because of how much product they're putting out. And the more the sales slow, the more Wizards has to put more product out to try to get more attention to beat those year-over-end goals, in my opinion.
Do you think that's why there are so many of these new card games spawning out? Are they trying to capitalize, you think, on
Yes.
the decline?
100%.
I was wondering if that was the case, because seeing that level of output of new card games seemed a little off. So it makes sense that that would be the case.
It's partially that, and it's partially the influx of animation, Japanese card games. Bandai, Bushiroad, big names coming over, multiple games that they have out. And as, look at, Anime NYC and look at these, anime conventions, they're really big, and that's kind of where a lot of the direction is going. Magic has looked at it. Magic did anime art cards. They did anime, different versions of stock characters in Liliana in an altered art form that everybody loved because it was anime style. So that's part of that new influx of games also.
So, and I wanted to go back a little bit to the games held at the store, and you have the 4 employees. Are they the ones running the events? Do you run them?
No, generally we have other people run events. We do basically independent contractors. We 1099 2 people, and then, some people just run it because they like running the game. So they're willing to run the tournament. So yeah, that's pretty much where we look at as far as that goes. And then there are some games, like my manager Kush was a level 2 Magic judge, so he runs our Magic events. Okay. We have I have a unique situation where I have a store within a store. I have a store called Play and Trade. My friend Rich, and he does all my video games, and he does a lot of my anime stuff. So he runs some tournaments also in the store. So that's kind of how we do our tournaments.
And since you have all that laid out, what's like a day in the life of a game store owner? Like, what are you doing day to day whenever you're going into the store? I know you're not doing as many hours, but like, what is your responsibility now?
Overseeing, bank management, money management. That's one of the big things, obviously. Making sure we have enough money to pay the bills, because there's so many new games coming in, and budgeting. Ordering. While my guys do a lot of the ordering, I have to go back and check all the stuff they order and oversee. Cut this down, add to this, that kind of thing. Dealing with insurance. My insurance, I just got dropped by my insurance company. We had 2 floods in 13 months in the store because I have a laundromat next door to me, and they don't really do a lot of maintenance. And twice now I've had my basement flooded, so my insurance company dropped me. So I have to go find a new insurance company, talk to a broker, set that up. Monday I have to go talk to my accountant, so that's another thing. So there's all these little things we have to deal with. Garbage. People never think that insurance, garbage, all these little things that are part of owning a business, they add up, and time. They add up time-wise. Things you have to do, that kind of stuff.
So now, when it comes to then marketing the store, I know, like, we're here at the convention, and I know that's one way of doing it. Is that something you've always done? Is attend conventions? Is that like helped bring in?
Yeah, we did. Icon used to be the big convention on Long Island back in the day, and I was helped run Icon for a while, and I've done been a vendor there many years, and I've vended different conventions. helping out at different conventions. Me personally, I have a certain look, so people recognize me, and and it's one of those things, being personable and talking to people and doing stuff like this. I'm not a good social media guy at all. I should be doing more. I should have my Instagram account linked. I should have everything linked, and I don't. And really, one of the things I need to do is think about hiring a social media coordinator.
I was just going to ask that.
To kind of tie all this stuff up. We do take pictures. We do put it out there when we have new product coming in. But we run a lot of word of mouth. We've been here long enough, and there's so many people that come into the store that they tell their friends, they tell their friends.
You have a luxury with that.
And it is. And I tried print advertising. I tried radio media once. Never got really good responses to either of them. Whereas going to conventions, that was the big thing. That definitely gave me stuff.
And since you mentioned you tried like radio or newspapers and that didn't work, how would you track that?
Coupons.
Coupons, okay.
Easiest way. Put a coupon in the paper, or on the radio you do, hey, mention this code, get this discount, and we got nothing, really. Very, very surprisingly, very little coupons came back for the thousands of dollars that I spent doing that. The one thing that did work out well was movie theater. We made a video and advertised it in a movie theater, and that got a lot of response.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have suspected that. I'm guessing maybe, especially if it's timed around like a superhero movie or something.
So you have to buy it by the month. So you go through all the movies that are playing in that theater. But again, this comes back to golden age of nerddom, where there's so many movies that you can tie into our genre that it's worth it doing the movie. I would never do them before. I was approached for years about it, and it just wasn't worth it. But now when you look at the schedule, and there's Marvel movies, and DC movies, and sci-fi movies, and Trek movies, there's all these things coming out that, yeah, you might as well throw some advertising up there.
And so that's an interesting, unique take of a marketing strategy that I haven't heard anybody talk about yet. And I know the conventions work. Do you do conventions out of state ever?
I used to.
Okay.
I used to travel more. I've done all over the place. Pretty much, I've done probably 20 different states. California, Texas, Florida, North Carolina. A lot of it has to do with regional events for card games. So you go vend at a Magic event or a Bushiroad or a Bandai event, as opposed to you have this, which is a generalized convention. These are more specifically card game oriented for that game, or a miniatures convention, Captain Con, Adepticon, things like that. I have vended at Gen Con. I vended for Bushiroad many years ago at Gen Con. And then, I'm trying to think what else. We've been invited out for Bushiroad to go out to their big festival in California. That's kind of, so we've been all over. We've traveled a lot. I put a lot of miles on my truck.
So when you're at, like, say, a convention for Gen Con and you're out of state, how does that help come back to the business, since you mentioned you don't do many online sales?
It's a little bit of making friends with people. Okay. Getting to know people in the industry can be really big, especially when I do something for a card company. Like I vend New York Comic Con for Konami, and I got that because I've worked with Konami for so long, vending with them at different shows, and we do Nats for them and a bunch of other events. Because we do some online sales, we definitely funnel through that. And then part of it is surprisingly a number of people who come to visit New York, or either have people, friends, family, or come to visit, want to go visit New York. And I've had people coming to visit New York City and make the drive, which is an hour away, out to me to come see my store, because they saw us at a show, they saw us at a convention. We've had people drive down from Maine because they heard of us at a convention up in, I think we were in New Hampshire, and they came down for a big tournament we ran. So that's kind of the pull, is we've gotten people from all over the place, drive up from Florida or fly up from Florida for a convention, because you can get cheap tickets for, at the time it was like $69 tickets to, Florida to New York. Why not come to a big tournament, a big 40K tournament, or a big, Magic tournament?
And I'm sure it helps with them coming down for something like that, because usually the buy-ins for those are more, and considering what you have to pay to vend at these events, I'm guessing it probably adds some offsetting costs there too.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's actually normally not too bad. Most of the show prices are relatively inexpensive for the shows that we do. And then we make a bunch of money. And the other thing is buying. So at these shows, I buy a lot. So card game shows, I'll buy a whole bunch of card games, a bunch of single cards to bring back to the shop to sell in the store and make my profit that way.
That's very interesting, because I've heard other stores say a similar thing, because my first thought would have been, okay, I paid, I don't know, $1,200, say, for the booth. Now I want to sell cards so that I can at least break even from it and still get the word of mouth about what I'm doing. But it's the complete opposite of what I've thought all this time, because you're right
A lot of times so I'll spend, say, $3,000 by the time you spend travel and hotel and everything on a show, but then I'll spend $15,000, $20,000 at that show buying cards, and then hopefully I'll sell $5,000 to $10,000 at that show, but it's the buying, because that's where I make most of my money.
How long have you been doing this show for?
Since it opened.
Since it opened, okay. And what are some of the things that you've done at the show for this year?
As far as...
Like, whether it be, like, because I saw you're one of the sponsors for the Long Island Tabletop Convention. I'm curious, like...
We run demos.
Okay.
So I think we're demoing D&D Onslaught, Kill Team. I know we were doing some Star Wars Unlimited, although there's another vendor doing that. One of my guys really likes it, so he's like, downtime, I'll teach people how to play this. Shatterpoint, Star Wars Shatterpoint, Star Wars Legion, and there was something, I think regular Warhammer is what we're demoing. And basically, that's what we do with the show. That's why we're a sponsor.
This episode of The Match Slip is sponsored by Crash CityCon, Roanoke, Virginia's premier gaming and fan convention. It's tabletop gaming at its best. In addition to role-playing games, board games, there are vendors, and so much more. Play with some of the top game masters in the area, enjoy a casual game in their open gaming area, or learn to play games you always wanted to play. Attend Crash CityCon August 23rd through the 25th of 2024 at the Berglund Center Special Events Center. You could check out more information at crashcitycon.com. Okay. And do you have, like, right now, is the store still open?
Yes.
Like, while you're here doing this? Okay. So do you bring a number of employees with you, and you have some at the stores that volunteer?
So I hire people to basically come for this, is what happens. So I have my store people, they're still at the store, and then when I do shows like this, I'll hire people to come.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of the store, if you can give me like a virtual tour picture of what it's like, because I haven't been to it. I remember Monkey Head, like we were talking about earlier, but I haven't been to your Brothers Grimm store before.
So basically you can walk in, and I have multiple tables, card tables, and that's the main room, and that's about, I guess remember now, I think that's 2,700 square feet. Okay. That's where you walk in, and there's on the right-hand side is going to be my D&D books, small mini games. On the left-hand side is all the D&D minis, which there are a million D&D minis out there now because D&D is so popular. As you walk through, you're going to have some Pokemon stuff, and then our counter on the right with all our singles, and we do singles for Magic, Lorcana, Star Wars, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, pretty much every card game out there. To the left side, there's another suite basically that we had expanded into, which is another 1,000 square feet, and that's our Warhammer area. Warhammer tables. We are used mini cases. My office is back in that corner. We do all our Warhammer regular single sales, box sales in there, and it's pretty much it. We have one of the cool things in the store is I have artists come in and paint ceiling tiles.
Oh, very cool.
So if you look up when you walk into my store, there's multiple ceiling tiles painted by different people who've just, like if you want a ceiling tile, here you go. I'll give you a ceiling tile and go paint it, and we'll pop it up in the ceiling.
That's a unique touch. Is there anything else about your store that you consider unique that from other stores you've seen that you feel yours stands out?
I have on my back wall, we actually had an artist come in and do all the basically Nintendo characters fighting each other from one of the fighting games. So basically it's just a whole wall with 2 TVs on that. Probably my biggest thing is that almost nobody does individual Warhammer sales, figures. So we take in those used models, clean them up a little bit, and put them out for sale so people can come in and buy those. And that's probably one of the biggest, individual unique things that my store does that no one else does. Other than that, standard pretty much store. We carry most typical gaming items, and we have a large Magic single selection. We actually have one of the largest Pokemon selections on the island, as far as I know. Really? Oh, wow. Yeah, we do a lot of Pokemon singles. Other than that, that's that and the fact that we have so many different card game singles. A lot of places don't do newer games because they're a little worried about them. Whereas we have Lorcana singles, we have Star Wars Unlimited singles, we have all these other singles.
Right, and it's crazy too because you mentioned Pokemon being huge and having one of the largest collections. I remember that spiked during the pandemic, and it still has held till.
Surprisingly, yeah, we all thought it was going to come down, and it really people grabbed onto it and ran, and they're still going.
That's something else. It's not something I would have expected because growing up it was just purely a collectible thing. Nobody played the game, but it seems like your store is all about it then.
Yeah, we do a lot. Wednesday nights is our Pokemon night. We get a ton of people coming in. Our schedule is crazy. Monday night is Commander night and Star Wars Unlimited. Tuesday is Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball. Wednesday is Pokemon and One Piece. And then Thursday is Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic Draft, and Digimon. Then Friday is Magic, and we get a lot of just regular people come in to hang out on that day. We're probably going to do Star Wars Unlimited again on Fridays. And then in between all that, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have Warhammer going on in our Warhammer room. Wednesdays has now become War Machine night again. That game is picked back up. So it's just a crazy how much stuff is going on all the time.
I was going to say you have quite a bit going on. What are some of your future plans for the store? Where would you like to see it go?
Oof, that's a tough one. I don't really know. I like where it's at now. I would like to clean out my basement a bit, which is why I'm selling all this stuff on eBay. And I can move my office into the basement, at which point that'll give us more room for more tables.
Okay. Yeah, because I know you said you expanded it, right?
Yeah, we'd expanded 8 years ago now, I think it was. We were 2 suites, and then we had added a third, typical chain, right. Store, storefront, we added a third. But yeah, other than that, making the store nicer. That's always what I'm trying to do. We've repainted. A friend of mine is doing some wood burning for me, and we're going to make one of the entrances into the other room is going to look like a mine shaft entrance. And I buy the WizKids dragon heads. We put them up in the store, so it just looks nice.
Very cool. So my last question for you is, if you were going to talk to somebody who is wanting to open up a store, not me, but I'm just saying in general, what would be, not necessarily a piece of advice, because that's a typical question anybody could ask you, but what is something you would, I guess, warn them about to make them aware of before they decide that that's something they want to do?
So I get this question a lot, actually. A lot of people ask me about opening stores, and I'm always free to give the advice. Capital, people they always underestimate how much it's going to actually cost. We were talking about those hidden costs before.
Right.
Paper towels. The amount of paper towels I go through in the store is amazing. The giant bundles of Bounty. Right. I go through 2 of those a week, pretty much, just because people are washing their hands, hopefully, and but cleaning up in the store, wiping up a mess, just different things. Hand soap. You don't think of these little things that add up. Supplies, rubber bands, tape, all this stuff. And then you get into insurance. Insurance is expensive. Mm-hmm. I pay thousands of dollars a year to have my store insured. Garbage. My garbage cost is $350 a month for my garbage bin in the back. And these are things that people open a store, and I've sat down with people, and they've showed me their budget, and they don't budget for any of this. And then they go, but I have this $20,000 is my reserve. And I go, well, what's your rent? Well, $5,000. I'm like, well, are you already talking about giving a month's rent for, on top of, not just first month's rent, but they're going to ask for first and last? Are you going to take care of that? Is that out of that? Oh, no, that's covered. Okay. Well, that $20,000, well, now take $4,000 of that and put that towards insurance. Take my electric bill. My electric bill here on Long Island is, I think it's $1,100 a month is what I pay. Then I have a gas bill. That's separate. My heat. So my heat during the winter is $450 a month per side because I have 2 systems. So the one is $450, another one runs about $200. So my gas bill is $600 a month. And these are things people just don't think about when opening a store. And it's those little hidden costs that really are the things that you have to look at when opening a store.
Because like before you know it, like you were mentioning, that $20,000 is whittled down to almost nothing.
Right.
And then you got to consider buying product, salaries for the employees.
Right, and everything else. And most stores I know of don't open with employees. That honestly, most are owner operated. When I started, I had a partner. We both worked a lot when we were there. He had another full-time job, but he would come in when he wasn't working. And then I guess the other thing would be making sure your store is a safe place and a place people want to come to, inviting. If you're cold or arrogant or, it turns people off, and they tell their friends that don't go to this place, that guy's an ass or whatever, To be honest, half the people who come in my store don't even realize I own the store. A lot of people think I'll be outside, my wife and I will be out somewhere, and someone will come up and be like, "You work at Grimm, right?" And I'm like, "Yep, yeah." And again, it's when people find out I'm the owner, they're pleasantly surprised because I'm not throwing it.
You're very humble about it.
Right. It's much easier to be that way instead of, "This is my store, I can do what I want," and this and that. And there has been occasion where I've thrown people out, and I tell people, here's another thing. It's okay to fire a customer. And there are times that you want to get rid of a customer because he's hurting your store more than he's bringing in. So that it is okay to tell somebody sometimes, we've had foul language problems. We've had odor problems with people. I've had violence. It's all these things where it's okay to kick somebody out. And some store owners are afraid to do that because they're afraid of repercussions from that.
It's better to get rid of the one bad apple and not let a trickle-down effect occur to where...
Yes, exactly.
So, Gil, it was a pleasure having you on. If there's anything you'd like to say to the people watching, everybody else in here, where they could follow you and where they could find out more about the store.
Yeah, you can. We're on Facebook as Brothers Grimm Games. Come join us, come down. We said we hit a lot of conventions and stuff. So here, Tabletop, Long Island Retro's coming up. And then there's Trek Long Island, is some friends of mine. I'm going to put a plug for that. May 31st, come on down and Hop Hog. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there. But yeah, that's really what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for everybody else watching, if you'd like to check out our reviews of the stores we visit in person, you can go to thematchlib.com/newsletter.